here we are at the climax, let's say, of our two-day event, and the topic is scouting new talents. And with us today, we have Sara Maino, who is not only a senior editor at Vogue Italia, but she's also the director of the new talent section at Vogue. And you know, Vogue magazine in general has really been an incubator for new talent, and specifically the initiatives under Vogue Italia's umbrella have been instrumental in the last few years in terms of bringing forth new names to light. So what we're here today to do is to really talk about what those programs are. I think it would be, I assume a lot of you are either young designers or people who would like to become young designers. So I really want this to be kind of like a very open dialogue, especially with the audience. We'll start by just talking a little bit about what Vogue does in general, what Sara has put together. So why don't you start just like at the beginning in terms of, you know, how you guys started coddling new talent at Vogue?
Well, the beginning was 10 years ago with the creation of the contest Who's on Next, that was created by Alta Roma and Italian Vogue, and it was generally focused on sustaining and promoting Italian manufacturing. So it was open to international and Italian designers, but it was really important that these designers produced in Italy to sustain the Italian manufacture. So this was already more than 10 years, because this year is the 10th anniversary. And moreover, I was fashion editor and assistant of fashion editors, so I always liked doing research and, you know, scouting for designers, but it was more like of a passion. And then like 6 years ago, Franca decided to create Vogue Talents. So this is more or less the quickest way which was created in 2009. And then when the website went online a year later, it's also one channel of the magazine.
So what are the differences between Who's on Next and what you do with Vogue Talents?
Well, Who's on Next is a contest. So there's a contest that is launched in January, and designers have the opportunity to subscribe until the beginning of April. And basically this is a contest. So it's a contest which there is a selection, then the selection goes through a jury of international media buyers and journalists, and then there's 10 to 12 finalists, and there's winners, but there's not really money there's not like a prize, but it's more to sustain the designers throughout the year. Instead, Vogue Talents is a platform of pure scouting. There are no rules. It's just a matter of scouting for new talents, and it's basically that's the real difference.
And there's no runway show for Vogue Talents. What you guys do is present during Fashion Week. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, Vogue Talents is like all year round through the website and through the magazine that comes out once a year. And no, there's not runway, but for example, what's been done here in Dubai, the 8 designers that have been selected are some of Vogue Talents, some of Who's on Next, and some of Scouting. So there's not really rules. It's basically creating as much projects as possible to sustain designers.
Okay. And how do young talents, like if you're not aware of them, how do they contact you? Are people constantly emailing you guys or sending their books, or how does it work?
Well, yeah, basically at the beginning it was more us like sending emails, explaining what we were doing, because like I remember like 10 years ago when I used to do research, which I do still now, but I was with my camera, and you had to explain designers, why are you taking pictures? You know, there was not social media, so they were like a little bit jealous so people didn't want that I take pictures because maybe, I don't know, they thought that maybe you went somewhere else to copy or anything. But now everything has changed. And it was more explaining the project, so it was a little bit more difficult. Now it's, people send emails. We receive a lot of requests. And then it's majorly scouting throughout fashion weeks, trade fairs, and I mean, it's not just thinking of doing the classic fashion weeks. You have to see also outside, because young designers or emerging designers are not in the fashion weeks. They're out of the fashion weeks. They're, you know, in small maybe laboratories or showrooms. So it's a lot of work.
Do you have certain quantities that you want to limit, like only 20 new designers per year, or we have 150 in our database? Like, how does it work in terms of numbers?
There's not numbers. It's just a selection of the really talented ones. So sometimes, I mean, in the last 9 years, like menswear has grown a lot. Before it was like the first year we did the magazine, it was like probably 8 to 10 designers we showed. Now it's maybe a little 20. I'm saying about the magazine. So it depends also in the season. Even accessory has grown a lot, respect to 10 years ago. I mean, there's many more accessory designers than before. So there's not a criteria. The criteria is to select talented designers.
And you can't, and once they've been in the program, let's say they've participated in Who's On Next, and maybe they won, maybe they didn't. The following year, what, if anything, or how are they followed up on? Are they followed up on? Do they become part of like a pool that is constantly promoted, or how does that work? Or is it just like a one-year kind of program?
No. I mean, the designers of Who's On Next are basically sustained. Like even designers that came out like 8 years ago are still like in our like platform,
network.
But they're designers that had success. So I mean, now they work by themselves. But then there are some designers that unfortunately not many maybe close the business, because I mean it's not always about everything's positive. I mean, you know, constructing a business, it's not easy. So there have been designers that unfortunately had to close their business or maybe decided to do other projects. But it's through the projects we do throughout the year, like here in Dubai or others, we try to involve the designers in projects such as here, or maybe we did we did the project with Pepsi now that we presented here with other designers, and in other case, I mean, like with Samsung. I mean, there are many different projects where designers are always involved.
And tell us, Sara, some of your great finds. Who were some of the designers that came through your program early before they became big names?
Well, there are a few examples. I mean, probably the most like big one is J.W. Anderson. That we invited him. The first collection he did, that was like we're in 2014. I think it was like 2010, and I remember me and Alessandro that works with me, like calling him every day, and he wouldn't answer. Then he would say, no, I forgot a t-shirt. Because like you guys are like worse than kids. I mean, we have to call you like, I mean, it's like really like...
Grow up, kids.
No, it's true, because you have to call them and remember everything. It's like, I mean, it's a lot of job. But he is probably the best case, and then he came to Milan with 8 pieces because he didn't understand that he had to bring the whole collection. So, which I have to say, 5 pieces are still to us because he never got them. So we have also vintage J.W. Anderson, and like Thomas Tite won now the prize of Hermès this year, and
he went through your program before that.
Yeah, he was invited. We don't really have a program. We have a platform where we give the visibility. So, yes, he was invited like 3 years ago.
Okay.
And then, well, Simone Rocha, there are many examples, which I have to say, maybe in London they were a little bit more known, but then they didn't maybe have like the international view. And so when they come in Milan, they really get the opportunity to be in touch with, I mean, all the fashion designers and the industry and distribution and showrooms. So
you have seen throughout these years so many young designers. I mean, you're an expert now on young designers. Looking at the ones, you yourself said there's some of them that made it, many that didn't. What are the characteristics, do you think, What did you see early on that were an indication of success?
Well,
I mean, was it, my question is, did they seem organized? Did they seem just super creative? Did they seem like, could you really tell from the product itself that they were going to have success? Or was there any sort of indication of like those that would do well and those that wouldn't?
Well, there is such indication. Then I have to say that nowadays for emerging brand, it's not easy to, to construct their own business, because I mean it's not easy. It's not an easy task, because you need money, you need distribution, you need quality of the production of your collection, which is fundamental. You need to have the right timings, because if a shop comes and buy, you have to stay in the dates of that they give you. So there are many different aspects, which is there's a variable. So it's not easy to say, but I have an example of another designer that I remember was Paola Cademartori, that I met her like 5 years ago, and she was her first collection. She's from Brazil, so for me it was like color and everything. So she calls me, say, can you come and see my collection? I go and see her collection. It was all black and white. And I said, but you're Brazilian, why don't you do color? Me, I always dress in black, but I said, why don't you do color? I said, yeah, maybe because was a little bit old, and she was so young. And then she did our contest, and she managed to do one or two colored bags, but not all of them, because she didn't have the time. And that was the ones she sold, and now I don't see black anymore in her collection.
She's all about color now.
Exactly. But the thing about her success is how she used social media. I mean, now she has a press office, but until a year ago, she made everything by herself. She has Instagram, and she created, so she did it like, it's a different way of building a business. And she did it through probably, I cannot say it for sure, but through social media. Then she obtained distribution, a showroom, and now she has a successful business that does almost, I think this year was saying, they were reaching like 800,000 euros or something, which for a young brand is a lot.
Yeah. I think that the social media thing really makes a difference now for designers who 10 years ago could never get in front of anyone. So, there is the possibility now of designers really taking charge of their own publicity. Exactly. No? I mean, this is a totally new world. And do you think that it's not just for Paola? I mean, do you advise designers to do that and to really be smart about?
For sure. I mean, I was talking before with another designer, and I said, I have Instagram, but I'm not like someone that posts everything for work and everything, because it's a job. Yeah. I mean, if I open my profile of Instagram and begin to put things of work, it becomes a job. It is a job. So for sure, for young designers, social network and media is very important. It's fundamental. And it helps to grow their business, for sure, without paying a PR office. PR offices will kill me saying this, but it's true. Right. Because
yeah, absolutely.
at the beginning, then they need it when they become big. But when they're small, I saw many designers investing money, and maybe it wasn't the right time to spend, 5,000 euros to have a PR when you have your collection since just a year.
What do you think then about designers gifting their items to the right women that they know will be photographed during the shows, street style, that kind of thing? Is that also another tactic you see as relevant?
Well, for sure, if it's used in an intelligent way, that's the fact of using it in the right way. Because all like these people like socialite and bloggers and also stylists and everything that wears the accessory clothes of the designers help the designer. But I do think that the designers at the same time needs to choose the right woman or men, if they decide to do menswear, that reflect their collection. And sometimes I just think that it's just, let's give it to everyone, so the more people see it, which works, but I don't know then if it's really a brand identity. Right. So that's the only.
anything that you would advise young designers not to do? Like, what are some common mistakes you see young designers making?
Well, common mistakes is it's a step a little bit after when they become famous. Unfortunately, they are approached about people helping them economically, and I've heard, I mean, not frequently, but a lot. It's like, then they call me, they lost their name because that's the thing. So when you have a partner in business that comes to you and say, listen, give me your 50% and I'm going to pay you, I don't know, 50,000 euros because I'm sustaining you, to be careful because it happens that they then get your name. And it's not a common mistake, but it is a mistake because maybe you don't get the right lawyer or the right person that gives you the right advice. So also the mentoring new designers, giving them the chance to speak with the right people of the business to understand how to create the right business. So that's an error that happens.
Another question I have is, now that fashion is so broad and it seems like every season there's no one trend, there's 500 new trends. Does that mean that there's space right now for every kind of designer? You can be minimal, you can be maximal, you can be hippie, you can be, whatever. Do you really see it not so much right now, success isn't really due to your style of fashion, but mainly more that you have a very strong point of view in what you do?
Yeah, for sure. There's always trends, but for sure now that with all this social network and everything goes so fast, and you have to do 5 collections in 3 months. Everything is very fast, so they're not really, I think, exact trends. But it's true that anyone can do everything. But the thing is that then what pays is the quality, the quality of the clothing, because I see a lot and good quality is not easy to find. So you can, whoever and can do, we know that I could wake up in the morning and decide to do t-shirts if I want, but it's not my case. But anyone can do everything, but the quality and at least the style has to be something very important. So that cuts a lot of designer away, with respect to everyone, but
yeah, and I think also this, the prevalence of huge brands like Zara and H&M that are doing such great trends so quickly. The only way you can really differentiate yourself now as a smaller designer is really on the quality, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, quality is very important. In fact, all the designers that I meet, in the end, their dream is to come and produce in Italy, because Italy is the country where people want to produce. The thing is that most of designers do not come to Italy because the quality is not cheap. So you have to have, and no, that's the basic of the quality of the clothes, because people want to buy things which are made of quality, even though maybe if you pay, H&M, if you pay a t-shirt 10 euros, you just have to think,
how did that happen?
How did it happen, exactly.
Yeah. Who are some of your favorite new young designers that we all should be looking out for? Who are some recent discoveries by Vogue and by you?
Tricky question.
That you love.
No, I do think that the designers that we're in Dubai, so I speak about the designers of now, which have been brought here, and it's interesting to see so different countries of where they come from, and so much talent seen. And new designers, which I think that for me it's more a satisfaction seeing the chosen designers here that have success, and maybe they will have a turnout in their career that could be, I'm Italian, so I'm going to speak of Italian designer, like Piccione. I think we gave him the chance to come here and show, and probably, the choice was right because this is his market. So I think he's going to have success and a good turnout in this market. So it's very important also, apart saying who's your favorite, is to place them in the right moment at the right time. So it's also about that.
Got it. I think that we should really turn it over to you guys. I'm sure you're brimming with questions about Vogue's Talent Scout here. So who wants to start?
Hi there. I actually run London College of Fashion in the Middle East, and I was just interested to know whether you think it's an advantage to have any sort of formal fashion education or even, background or anything?
I don't. Okay. Sorry, I had my light here. I couldn't see you. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just saying that. Do you think it's an advantage or helpful even to have any sort of formal fashion education, be it a degree or a diploma or anything like that when you're heading out? Or do you think it's just if you have a talent, you have a talent?
I do think that, if you have talent and you're creative, I don't, if you have it, maybe you cannot, you don't need to do a school or university, but then you need it to do it. Because if you go in I don't know, do some example like Central St. Martin or London College, they give you the right direction of how to be a designer. So I do think that I think it's necessary, but it's not like mandatory. But it's something that it's a plus if you do fashion schools. Depending, you have to be very clear on what you want to do, because sometimes I see students which say, okay, I do a fashion school because I was studying architecture, I was a lawyer, I got bored, and what I do, the easiest thing is to do a fashion school. Not really the right answer. So. Because there are many designers, many students that maybe decide to do something different and then they start doing fashion, which is fine. I'm not saying that if you're an architect, you cannot be a fashion designer. There have been architects, like Gianfranco Ferré was an architect and became a fashion designer, but I'm not saying, it seems that sometimes fashion is the easiest way of like finding a solution of something that you didn't like before. So. It depends on the designer.
Sarah, that brings me, just to an idea in my head. It seems like there's a lot of designers out there, successful designers. I'm thinking Miuccia Prada, who didn't go to fashion school and in fact doesn't even know how to sketch a fashion design. But in a way, that system that she grew up on is almost no longer relevant. Now it's like there's so much that a young designer has to get their head around in terms of you can't just be a creative force. You have to also understand production and business and merchandising and sales things, and aren't all of those things super important to learn at a school environment now? You can't just be like a roaring creative, a Franco Moschino, situation of.
No, now it's much more, there are many, well, that's why sometimes designers are in a couple, the designer does the creative one, and the more, down to earth that does, the more complicated things like economic parts and everything. Yeah, a school, it's important. I'm not saying it isn't important. That sometimes there are designers which haven't done schools, but then the example you brought, and then it becomes an empire. But for sure, turning also back the question you asked, which is the error that designers do sometimes, is maybe to don't have the right team. Because, you can be a very creative person and very talented, but then your talent has to be, taken forward and be like down to earth. And so you have to have someone that knows what you're talking about, production, or maybe your business plan. So the team is very important. Designers, the designer that comes out in the catwalk, it's by himself, but behind there are many people. So that's very important too.
Next question.
Hi. So you mentioned that to differentiate yourself, you have to put quality out there if you're a young brand. But the thing is, the landscape is so competitive that even if you have good quality, good style, it's difficult for yourself to be out there, to put yourself out there. So how do you do that? Platform like yours may not be accessible to every designer. Like I'm from India, we have a very young brand. So how do we make our presence felt globally? How do we do that?
You mean you want to know where there are the situations where you can get visibility?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, I'll leave you my email and then I answer to you because there are many. There are many. We are not the only magazine that gives.
Right.
But magazine probably, yes, but we are not the only platform. There are many platforms. It depends also where you wanna be seen and everything because. In 10 years ago, there was Who's on Next, Yeah, and but then now in the last 5 years, there's been so many attention for the new generation. So there are really a lot of platforms where your work can be seen. Absolutely. You don't have to think that it's impossible. You have to always believe in what you're doing and and follow your dreams.
Hi, Vogue Italia website has a dedicated section for talent scouting, including photography. I was wondering, what advice do you have for young emerging photographers who are trying to tap into the fashion photography world?
Sorry?
I was wondering, what advice do you have for young emerging photographers who are trying to tap into the fashion photography world?
My advice, well, my advice, as I said, I think that if you have a project and you believe it in, you have to try all your best to bring it out and to be seen. I do think if you have really a dream or something to express, to show, you have to try all the best to do it. And the thing is that there are people that are interesting to see your work, so you have to find the best way to be seen, which is not like, it's not that if you are famous and you, because turning back to social networks, everyone is stuck on, I put a picture and I have 10,000 followers, which is important, but it's not just all about that. It's because social network sometimes gives a little bit a wrong reality of what the world can be. So I would always say to keep tight to your dreams and your aims.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Sarah. Just wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to emerging designers about cruise collections? Would you advise them to go into doing cruise collections?
For
Cruise collections in between seasons, as apparently it's more profitable and you've got a bit better chance at selling cruise collections?
Cruise collections, I think it's linked also to the country where you live, because here I would say yes, because it's the designers decided to do pre-collection and cruise collection because they were asked also commercial-wise, but even because it was maybe I don't know, they decided to do cruise collections in countries or even places where there's more the weather-wise or more attention, even because I don't know, there was like here maybe the clients have even where the money is, because collections become expensive. So I think it's more of even in which countries you wanna sell. But before doing cruise collections, I think you have to, before construct your collection, then think about adding things to your cruise or pre-collection. But this is something also very commercial, so that's why it's very important to be to have a team where people know to give you the right ideas and help you. And So sometimes it's the showroom that tells you maybe it's better you do cruise or not. But before you have to have your collection, and it has to be a complete collection and recognizable.
Hi, Sarah. Here. Hi. If you can please sort of give us a breakdown, because what you guys are doing is fantastic. It's amazing, and it's something we all need, and definitely in our country here in Dubai. And there's a lot Dubai can learn from you. So if you can break it down to what is it that exactly, other than the platform that you do, that we could learn from you as well, and hopefully develop as well. Because designers, okay, surely we need a platform, but there's more than that, right? Of course, there's the mentorship, there's, a designer needs management, needs funding, needs production assistance. I mean, there's a whole lot of things. So what has been successful for you guys, and what do you think is best where we could also learn from your platform, and hopefully Dubai could do the same as well?
Well, for sure to listen to the right people when they give you, it's not that we tell you what you do, but we try to give you the right information and the right suggestion of what can get better of your collection. But, we give a lot of possibilities for designers. So, but fundamental is to listen to the right people in the fashion industry, because what happens here is to put you in contact with buyers and media, and so these are all the people that can help you to go on with your business. So, and for sure, mentoring is very important, and that's why, as Jay was saying, school is important, probably even in a business way, because once you construct your brand, you have to also become a businesswoman or a businessman, and maybe it's not.
Even if you don't want to.
Even if you don't want to. I mean, when you want to become a designer, it's not just about parties and shows, and there's also the other part, which is maybe a little bit boring, but maybe someone else can do it for you, but you have to know what this person is doing because it's your business. So that's...
Yeah, because as addressed earlier, social media has really made people lazy in terms of, everyone's really comfortable. I was saying this earlier in the other event, that everyone's sort of comfortable in their own little bubble, and nobody really wants to make that extra effort to excel their work because they have this, following. And I don't know about Italy, but in Dubai, anyone and everyone's a designer. It's like everybody's a designer, There's no benchmarks, no standards. I mean, you can just overnight call yourself a designer, put yourself on Instagram or social media, put a few things, and then that's it. You have a following. So nobody really feels the need to, let me get out of that. Let me go either get training or go do an internship or treat it more seriously. It's treated more like a hobby, unfortunately, here. So, it's definitely important because fashion is a very serious business, but, no one takes it as that here. But we don't have the platform, and we don't have the support. They're working on it. I mean, we're getting there, but that's why I just wanted to, get pointers from you so we can share with the authorities, hopefully. Thank you.
Hi, Sarah. For an upcoming designer, what is your advice on designing collections? Because it is very expensive to try and design collections after collections, trying to match up with the trend. What do you advise for upcoming designers to make one or few pieces and get it out there first and then probably go into doing collections? Because you don't even have buyers yet. You don't have anyone to sell to. You're creating collections, but then who's buying it? So people, there are a lot of designers I know who have made collections, but they're just lying in their wardrobe. They did some shows and nothing happened after that. So what is your advice?
Well, sometimes it's about, I've seen collections of people I know that they began giving, if, I don't know, you decide to do a bag collection, beginning to give their first items to friends, because it happens to me that maybe I meet people and I said, oh, I like what you have. So we are turning back on the fact of even social, but it can be a way of beginning to show your collection in the most simplest way to the final customer, which in that moment is not the customer, but it's your friend that brings it around. And but for sure, before doing that, you always have to be sure that you're showing a good quality of your collection. And I mean, suggestion. It's I mean, I'm not a designer, so I mean, I can give you suggestion, but I think it could be a solution. And if not, because when you begin to do trade fairs are expensive. So I mean, maybe someone doesn't have the money. So there are many ways, depending also on your possibilities. But that's why we do events like that, where the designer has the chance to come, and it's not he's not paying to come here. It's because he's talented, and this is very important, that the industry sustains designers at the beginning without asking them, money, even though that they have to, at a certain point, I think they need to understand that they're giving the chance. So maybe, I mean, like different, fashion councils around the world, they give the chance for young designers to come without paying, but after 2 years, they pay, because it's important also to give value of what, you're giving back.
Hello. Good evening, Sara. First of all, thank you so much for all the dreams that you bring over here to Dubai through the exhibitions that we saw in the Dubai Mall, like, the Italian way, through the fashion show with the new talents, because we saw something really amazing. So you are kind of a dream maker, but you are actually a star maker, because every time you choose somebody, you make this dream come true, and one of them become a star in the sky of the fashion industry. So how do you feel to be such a star maker? House, as I heard sometimes you say that, at least.
Yeah, it's home now, Dubai. It's like I'm living into this. It's going to be strange after 12 days being here. Well, star maker, I mean, I'm happy, because for me the most, I mean, I don't really love saying, I discovered that, he's there thanks to me. I know that it happens, but for me the most satisfaction I get is when really designers tell me, you made the difference, taking me at this point, it turned, the turning point in my career. And that's the most greatest satisfaction that you can have. I mean, it's not about, appearance and everything. I mean, when designers tell me, for me, my life changed, for me, I'm satisfied, and I know that I'm doing the right job.
Bravissima. So we have time for 2 more questions.
Hi. I just can't hide my happiness about mirroring you. Black, white and black. Okay, so my question is about writing, actually. So what do you find the differentiator, as a differentiator in a writing, in terms of content?
Writing?
I mean, what are you looking for in a writing, in fashion writing? As a quality, what do you look for first, for example? When you write something, what do you search for? What do you look for?
I mean, when I write,
when you write and when you read as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm not really like a journalist, so I don't really write articles. If you say that, I mean, it's not really bad in writing. I have many other qualities, but writing is not my. No, it's well, there are many. I mean, when I see like journalists, I mean, the fashion industry, there are many very, very good journalists, and I think them are also another important link to give the chance to be seen by, they give the chance for young designers to be seen. I mean, as I said, here, we come here, we show designers, but then the designers need to be sustained by buyers, and journalists, fashion journalists, are a very important key for the success even of other designers. I mean, the success of designers are made of many different people, which could be me, which could be JJ, and then could be a buyer. So, I mean, seeing what I mean, an article, it's, I think it's also very a personal point of view sometimes. It's,
yeah, this was what I was asking, actually, your personal point of view on fashion articles? What is it? What do you find more valuable in an article
for you,
or
what's
in writing?
an example? I mean, just to understand better your question. I mean, you mean...
For example, let's say you crush on a blog or you crush on a new writer in a magazine. What it is in a writing that takes your attention and makes you read it from the beginning to the top?
Well, it's like reading a good or a bad book. It's like I don't know. It's a fact of. I mean, if you're reading an article in fashion-wise of a show, and I haven't seen the show, if I read an article of a fashion show, and once I read it, I imagine what I was looking at, that's a good article, but which is not easy because sometimes, I mean, I'm for sure not saying names or anything. To write an article on a fashion show is really difficult because it's very easy to say, a blue skirt and white stripes and everything. So I try to find, but this is, I think it's a little bit subjective or it's a personal idea, but that's it. I don't know if I answered your question.
Just to add one thing that I would just suggest to all of you budding writers out there. The one thing that really makes a big difference is to have a point of view. Anyone can say that the skirts were red and that the tops had stripes. Did they look good or not? Why? You know, that, and to put it in the overall context of what's happening in fashion is what differentiates a very mediocre writer from a much better one. You want to be able to make examples, make a connection outside of what you're just looking at. You know, why is all of a sudden sexy back? You know, like there needs to be a little bit of a bigger discourse. The other thing is, I mean, in order to be a good writer, you have to be a great reader. Do your reading. Read all of the journal. You know, read the top journalists. Read the New York Times. Read the Corriere della Sera if you understand Italian. Read the Telegraph. You know, those are where. Read the editors at Style.com. Nicole Phelps, Tim Blanks. These are the people who are really at the the top of their game. And you don't want to just be reading a bunch of sycophantic, air kisses. Like the writers who are tough are the ones who have a real point of view and who are saying something and creating a space. And even if you have a blog, and you don't think that you have any sort of relevance, you do if you have an opinion, I hate pink. Why do you hate pink? Like, talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, get into, like, not just these shoes are pink, It's like, do you like pink? Why? Why not? What are you going to wear with that pink? Make it more personal and make it educated. Just, like, think that, sometimes I think people consider fashion sort of like a tier, a step below. There's no reason why fashion writing shouldn't be at the same level as political writing or theater reviews, any sort of cultural endeavor. So last question for Sara. Who's got it?
Hello. Sorry. So I used to have a showroom, and I used to see a lot of designers, young designers. And one of the things I noticed, and maybe you see the same thing, is a lot of times they'll do a full collection, right? But they're not very good at designing a lot of the items. They're good at a couple of categories. Maybe they're really great at coats or really great at dresses, and they struggle with all these other categories, and it pulls the collection down. Do you think it makes it more difficult for a young designer to start out who really focuses on just like knitwear or focuses just on dresses, or do you think that helps them because they're much more focused in what they're creating?
Well, I think if a designer decides to do his collection, it's not that he or she need to do a complete collection, so you have to do the shirt, the blouse, the trousers. I mean, I think it's very important to begin to what you feel strong, because then I was saying in these days that there are designers, there's a designer in the other room that she's Italian, but it's a case. It's not, I'm just making examples. She started doing jewelry, And then her jewelry collection was going well, but there was something missing. Then she decided to start to do shoes with jewelry on top. And now she's like a shoe designer, but she wasn't born as a shoe designer. So what you're saying, I mean, I think that if a good designer is good on coats and trousers, I think he or she can start doing just a collection of coats and trousers. It doesn't mean that they have to do a complete collection. Then for sure, if the market works, then they're gonna ask to do other stuff. But there are designers that maybe had success doing just coats, and then they begin to do the trousers, and the trousers look really lousy, and it doesn't work. So that's why, as Jay was saying, for writing, you have to have your point of view. It's very important, and it's something for everyday life, to have a really point of view and ideas and an opinion. And this is the same for fashion, for a fashion collection, if you want to come out from the crowd, which is very, very crowded.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Sara. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's thank Sara, not just for this conversation, but for putting on this entire thing. Bravissima.